I'm Caitlin Anderson, 28 years old, and my life flipped upside down in just 24 hours. The universe, it seems, has a twisted sense of humor. The exact day my parents decided I was a failure and kicked me out with nothing but a suitcase was the same day my lottery ticket hit for millions. They thought they were teaching me a lesson about responsibility. But what they really taught me was that sometimes losing everything is the only way to discover what truly matters. Before I dive into how I went from homeless to millionaire overnight, tell me where you're watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever had to reinvent yourself after life pulled the rug out from under you. Trust me, you'll want to hear what happened next. Growing up in Meadowbrook, I was always the odd one out in my family. My dad, Frank Anderson, was an accountant who believed success had only one path: a prestigious degree followed by a secure corporate job. My mom, Helen, was a hospital administrator, obsessed with structure and what she called practical choices. Then there was me, dreaming of creating beautiful things with my hands. From the time I was 12, I spent hours crafting jewelry from whatever I could find. Old buttons from Grandma Margaret's sewing box, smooth stones from the creek behind. Our house, broken thrift store necklaces. My parents tolerated this as a cute hobby, but they made it clear they expected me to grow out of it and pick something sensible. Only my grandmother truly understood. While my parents pushed me to business school, Grandma Margaret would slip me art books and whisper, "The world needs more beauty." She never apologized for encouraging me to create. She wore my mismatched earrings to church and proudly told anyone who complimented them, "My granddaughter made these. She's going to be famous someday." When I turned 21, Grandma Margaret gave me her antique jewelry box filled with tools and stones she'd collected for years. "Your grandfather gave me this on our wedding day," she said, "and I've been saving it for someone who would truly appreciate it." That gift meant more to me than my college diploma ever could. After graduation, I took a job at a financial firm to please my parents. For 3 years, I withered at that desk, sneaking in jewelry sketches on lunch breaks and staying up late to create pieces I sold at local craft fairs. My online shop was growing, slowly, but not enough to support me yet. Every Friday, Grandma, Margaret and I had a ritual. We'd meet for coffee at Bellamy's Cafe, and she'd insist on buying a lottery ticket. One for her, one for me. "Your dreams need a little magic," she'd say with a wink. I'd roll my eyes, but always played along. It was our thing. When she passed away last year, I was devastated. At the reading of her will, I received her little lottery number book. Inside the cover she'd written, "Keep playing, my darling. These numbers have meaning. And remember, the greatest lottery in life is having the courage to be yourself." So I kept our Friday ritual alive, using her special numbers. It felt like a way to keep her close. Meanwhile, things at home got tense. I'd moved back in to save money after college, but at 28, my parents had lost all patience for my so-called jewelry phase. Dinner became a war zone. "When are you going to apply for that management position Richard mentioned?" my mom would ask, referring to her colleague's son at a big marketing firm. "The benefits alone are worth considering," Dad would chime in, as if I hadn't heard this speech every week for months. I tried to explain how my online sales were growing, how a small boutique in the city had started carrying my pieces. But to them, success wasn't measured in Instagram followers or 5-star reviews. It was degrees, job titles, and health insurance. 2 weeks before everything fell apart, I found an apartment listing online, nothing fancy, just a small studio, above a bookstore downtown. But it would be mine. The rent was steep, but if I kept my day job a little longer while growing my business, I could make it work. I scheduled a viewing, dreaming of a space where I could spread out my tools and create without judgment. Hope flickered inside me, and I could almost hear Grandma Margaret's voice. "It's time, Caitlin. Spread your wings." I believed maybe, naively, that my parents would come around once they saw me succeeding on my own terms. I pictured inviting them to my first real jewelry show, watching disappointment turn into pride. But the universe had other plans. The argument that changed everything erupted on a Tuesday evening. I'd finally found the courage to tell them I was quitting my safe job at Preston Financial to pursue my jewelry full-time. I'd rehearsed my speech all day, ready with answers for every argument I knew they'd throw at me. What I hadn't prepared for was the sheer intensity of their reaction. "You're throwing away a perfectly good career for a hobby," Dad exploded, his face turning crimson as he set down his fork with such force that the plates rattled. "This isn't just disappointing, Caitlin. It's irresponsible." Mom's approach was quieter but no less sharp. "Sweetheart, I understand wanting to follow your passion, but people with real artistic talent get discovered early. They don't quit their jobs and burden their families." Her words cut through me like a knife. I tried to explain my growing sales, the boutique partnerships I was nurturing, but every point I made was dismissed like an annoying fly. $300 in sales last month isn't a business. It's a garage sale. Dad sneered. That's when I saw it, a printout sitting on the counter behind him. My sales report, something I kept locked away in my desk drawer. My voice rose with disbelief. "You went through my private documents?" Mom looked faintly embarrassed, but Dad didn't back down. "When you live under our roof, your business is our business. And speaking of business, that little diary of yours doesn't inspire confidence either." My heart dropped. My diary, where I poured out my dreams, my fears, my deepest thoughts. "You read my diary?" The betrayal felt physical, like a punch to the gut. "We needed to understand what's going on with you," Mom said, her tone defensive. "You've been secretive, staying up all hours working on those trinkets." "They're not trinkets," I shot back, tears burning in my eyes. "And I'm not a child you can violate whenever you feel like it." Dad's ultimatum came next, delivered with the cold finality of a judge. "Either you keep your job at Preston and treat this jewelry, nonsense is the hobby it is, or you find somewhere else to live. We won't support this fantasy." My brother Timothy, who'd been silently eating his potatoes through the entire exchange, finally spoke up. "Maybe Dad's right, Kate. You've always been different. But sometimes, different isn't practical." His words stung almost as much as my parents'. Growing up, he'd been my ally in this house of rigid expectations. Now, he was just another voice telling me to give up. I tried one last approach, appealing to the values they'd always taught me. "You always said to work hard, to be self-sufficient. That's exactly what I'm doing. Why can't you see that?" "Self-sufficiency means paying your own rent," Dad said flatly. "Not living here while you play artist." Mom's face softened for a moment. "We just want what's best for you, Caitlin." "No," I said quietly. "You want what's easiest for you to understand." That was it. Dad stood, pointing upstairs. "Pack your things. I want you out by morning." I spent the next 4 hours in my childhood bedroom, tears streaming down my face as I tried to fit my life into one. Suitcase. The irony wasn't lost on me, that the suitcase itself had been a gift from Grandma Margaret for my 25th birthday. "For adventures," she'd said when I unwrapped it. Some adventure this was turning out to be. I had to make impossible choices. Which clothes were practical, which jewelry supplies were essential, which mementos I couldn't bear to leave behind. Each item I packed felt like an admission of defeat. Each one I left behind felt like I was abandoning a part of myself. As midnight approached, I remembered it was Tuesday, the night they announced the lottery numbers. Grandma and I had always checked them together. Now I did it alone, a small ritual of connection to her memory. I pulled out my phone to check my ticket on the lottery app, but was greeted with a maintenance notification. "System updates in progress. Please check back in 6-8 hours." Even that small comfort was denied me tonight. I closed the app, set my alarm, and cried myself to sleep beside a half-packed suitcase in the room that would no longer be mine come morning. The next morning brought steady rain, as if the sky itself understood my mood. Dad stood at the front door, arms crossed, watching as I struggled down the stairs with my overstuffed suitcase. Mom hovered in the kitchen doorway, her expression a complicated mix of worry and resolve. Neither offered to help. "Your phone will stay on our family plan until the end of the month," Dad said in that same businesslike tone. "After that, you're on your own. Richard's son still says he could get you that interview," Mom added, making one last attempt to pull me back into their sensible world. I said nothing, just nodded and stepped toward the door. I had my wallet, with exactly $342, my driver's license, and a nearly maxed-out credit card. My car technically belonged to my parents. They'd helped with the down payment and kept the title. I didn't even bother to ask. "This is for your own good, Caitlin," Dad said, as he physically guided me onto the porch, his hand firm on my shoulder. "Sometimes people need a push to grow up." The door closed behind me with a decisive click of the lock. And just like that, I was homeless. The rain immediately began soaking through my clothes. My light jacket offered little protection as I pulled out my phone with trembling fingers and called Amber, my best friend since high school. "Kate, what's wrong?" "You sound awful," she said, her voice muffled by what sounded like airport announcements. "My parents kicked me out." "I need a place to stay," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm at the airport right now, flying to Phoenix for that conference. Remember? I won't be back until Sunday." The genuine anguish in her voice only made me feel worse. "Use my emergency key," she urged. "It's still under the planter. Stay as long as you need." A flicker of relief washed over me, until I remembered. "Your apartment flooded last week. You're staying with your sister until the repairs are done, right?" She paused, and her sigh was heavy. God, I completely forgot. "I'm so sorry, Kate." I tried 3 more friends. One was out of town, another was staying with her boyfriend in a cramped studio, and the third had family visiting from out of state. By the 5th call, the rejection felt personal, even though I knew it wasn't. With nowhere else to go, I started walking toward downtown. My suitcase rattled over every crack in the sidewalk as the rain intensified, soaking through my shoes and chilling me to the bone. Cars splashed dirty water onto my jeans. I must have looked pathetic. Mascara running down my face, a 28-year-old woman dragging a suitcase through the rain. After 40 minutes of walking, I reached the Pinewood Motel, a place I'd passed 1,000 times, never imagining I'd end up here. Its neon sign buzzed and flickered, but the vacancy light promised shelter. The lobby smelled of cigarettes and pine-scented air freshener. Behind the counter stood an older woman with kind eyes and gray hair pulled into a messy bun. Her name tag read Rebecca. "Rough day, sweetheart?" she asked, eyeing my drenched clothes and tear-streaked face. "You could say that," I managed. "How much for a room, just for tonight?" $69 plus tax, she said. "Checkout's at 11 tomorrow." I counted out $75 mentally, calculating how little that left me. Rebecca handed me a key with a faded plastic number 4. "Continental breakfast starts at 6, she added with a gentle smile. "Nothing fancy, but the coffee's decent." The room was exactly what you'd expect from a budget motel. Faded floral bedspread, ancient TV, bathroom with cracked tiles. But it was clean and dry, and at that moment it looked like paradise. I peeled off my wet clothes and took a hot shower, letting the water mix with my tears. In the privacy of that steamy bathroom, I finally broke down completely, sliding down the tile wall to sit under the spray, hugging my knees to my chest, sobbing until my throat hurt. Through the thin walls, I could hear Rebecca arguing with someone. "We need to pay the electric bill first, Donald. The credit card company can wait another week." "They'll shut off the power, Becky. Then we'll have no guests at all." Their financial worries, oddly enough, comforted me. At least I wasn't the only one treading water. Later, wrapped in a scratchy motel towel, I sat on the bed and took stock of my situation. My savings account held exactly $2,318, money scraped together from countless weekend craft fairs and online sales. My jewelry supplies, at least the ones I'd managed to bring, might be worth another $1,000 if I sold them, but that would mean giving up on my dream before it had even begun. I opened my laptop and checked my email, hoping for a miracle. There was a message from the apartment manager. "Looking forward to showing you the studio tomorrow at 3 p.m., a place I could no longer afford. On a blank page in my notebook, I made a list. Find temporary housing. Get a job that pays cash immediately. Build up savings. Restart the jewelry business when I'm stable." Each item felt like an admission of defeat, especially the last one. My dream deferred indefinitely. Exhausted and emotionally drained, I crawled under the covers of the motel bed. My last thought before sleep took me was of Grandma Margaret. "I'm not giving up," I whispered to her memory. "I'm just regrouping." Outside, the rain kept falling, washing away the life I'd known and clearing space for whatever would come next. The harsh beep of my phone alarm jolted me awake at 7:30, and for a disorienting moment, I had no idea where I was. I forgot where. I was for a moment. The unfamiliar ceiling, the muffled sound of cars on the nearby highway, the scratchy motel sheets. Then reality came crashing back like a wave. I was in a cheap motel room because my parents had thrown me out. I reached for my phone to silence the alarm and noticed a string of notifications. Probably Amber checking in, I thought. Or maybe, just maybe, my parents had calmed down and wanted to talk. A tiny, hopeful part of me still believed they'd realized they'd overreacted. But the notification that caught my eye wasn't from any of them. It was from the lottery app I'd tried to check last night. My heart skipped. "Congratulations, you've won." "Yeah, right," I muttered. Probably one of those gimmicks to get me to open the app. I tapped on it anyway, expecting to see a $2 prize or some small bonus. But when the screen loaded, I shot upright in bed. Winning numbers: 08, 17, 23, 42, 54, 9. My grandmother's numbers. The ones from her special book. The numbers I'd played every single week without fail. My hands trembled as I dug through my purse, pulling out the physical ticket to compare. Every single number matched. My brain refused to process it. This can't be real, I thought. I closed the app and reopened it. Same result. I Googled the official Powerball numbers. Same numbers. The prize amount made me gasp. $94 million jackpot. After taxes and the lump sum, around $37 million. This can't be real, I whispered to the empty room. Things like this don't happen to people like me. With shaking fingers, I called the number listed on the lottery website. After several rings, a professional-sounding woman answered, "State Lottery Commission. How may I help you?" I think I won," I stammered, "but I need to make sure it's not a mistake." She asked for the numbers and my ticket's barcode. There was a pause that felt like an eternity. Finally, her voice turned formal. "Ms. Anderson, I can verify that you are indeed holding a winning ticket for last night's drawing. Congratulations." I couldn't breathe. The room spun, and I had to put my head between my knees. "Are you all right, ma'am?" she asked. "Yes." "No. I don't know," I gasped. "What do I do now?" She explained the claim process, urged me to sign the back of the ticket immediately, and recommended I consult with a financial advisor and attorney. I scribbled down every word, terrified I'd forget everything once the call ended. When we hung up, I sat frozen on the edge of the bed. $37 million. Yesterday, I'd been agonizing over a $69 motel room. Today, I could buy the entire motel and every building on the block. A hysterical laugh bubbled up in my chest. Then another, until I was cackling so loudly I heard a knock on my door. "Everything okay in there, honey?" It was Rebecca, the motel owner. I opened the door, still in the same rumpled clothes from yesterday, my face wild and flushed. "I won," I whispered. Rebecca frowned, concerned. "Won what, dear?" "The lottery. I won the lottery last night, all of it." The words tumbled out in a rush. Her eyes widened with disbelief. "The Powerball? That huge jackpot?" I nodded, then pulled her inside and closed the door. "I can't tell anyone yet. I need to figure out what to do." Rebecca guided me to sit on the bed like I was made of glass. "Take deep breaths, sweetheart. This is a lot to process. Yesterday, I was homeless," I said, the reality finally sinking in. "My parents kicked me out because they thought my jewelry business was a waste of time. And now you're a millionaire," Rebecca finished, her voice filled with wonder. I nodded, tears filling my eyes. The numbers were my grandmother's. She died last year. We always played together. She left me her book of numbers. Rebecca squeezed my hand. "Sounds like she's still looking out for you." That simple kindness broke something inside. Me. I began to sob, all the stress and fear and overwhelming shock pouring out at once. Rebecca patted my back, murmuring soothing words. When I finally calmed down, a strange clarity settled over me. "I need a lawyer and a financial advisor," I said, wiping my eyes. "And I need to keep this quiet until everything's set up." Rebecca nodded. "Smart girl. My cousin James is a financial advisor in the city. Very discreet. I can give him a call if you'd like." "Yes, please," I said gratefully. "And can I stay here a few more nights until I figure things out?" "Of course, honey. I'll put you in our best room, on the house." I shook my head firmly. "No, I'll pay." Actually, a sudden idea formed in my mind. "Rebecca, how much would it cost to book every room in this motel for a week?" Her eyes widened. "All 15 rooms? That would be about $6,000. But why?" "Consider it insurance for my privacy," I said, thinking of the conversations I'd overheard the night before. "Plus, it sounds like it might help with the bills you and Donald were worrying about." Rebecca blushed. "You heard that? I'm so sorry." "Don't be," I said softly. "I understand financial struggles better than most." I thought about my parents who would soon learn about my windfall. Vindication, anger, hurt, they all swirled inside me. But underneath it all was a flicker of something else, the determination to become the woman Grandma Margaret always believed I could be. "One more thing," I said, as Rebecca turned to leave. "If anyone comes looking for me, especially a couple in their 50s or a young man who looks like me, I'm not here. Understand?" She nodded, a conspiratorial smile on her lips. "Your secret's safe with me." When she left, I sat back on the bed, staring at the lottery app still open on my phone. 37 million. The exact amount I needed to never depend on anyone else again. Grandma Margaret's voice echoed in my mind. "See, darling, magic happens when you stay true to yourself." For the first time since leaving my parents' house, I smiled, a real smile that reached my eyes and warmed my heart. The universe had handed me not just a second chance, but a cosmic do-over. By dawn, I'd been kicked out with nothing but a suitcase. Now I was rich beyond my wildest dreams, and no one who had doubted me knew it yet. 2 days later, I sat in the polished office of James Spencer, Rebecca's cousin and a trusted financial advisor. True to her word, he was discreet and professional, not batting an eye when I walked in wearing the same clothes I'd been wearing since Tuesday. "The first step is securing your winnings," he explained, sliding a folder across the mahogany desk. "I've prepared the paperwork for a blind trust. This will allow you to claim the prize without your name becoming public." "Is that legal?" I asked, scanning the documents. "Absolutely. Several states allow winners to remain anonymous through trusts. It's the smartest move, especially for someone in your Unique situation. My unique situation. What a diplomatic way of saying homeless turned millionaire. Together, we crafted a plan. Take the lump sum, invest 60% in a diversified portfolio, set aside money for taxes, and keep a reasonable amount liquid for immediate needs. How reasonable is reasonable? I asked. James smiled. For someone with 37 million, a few $100,000 is perfectly reasonable for getting started. The words "a few $100,000" made me dizzy. 2 days ago, I'd been counting quarters for vending machine coffee. After signing what felt like 1,000 documents, I had one special request. There's a motel, the Pinewood, where I've been staying. Rebecca and Donald are struggling financially. I'd like to anonymously pay off their mortgage. James didn't seem surprised. A worthy first act of generosity. I'll arrange. It through the trust so it can't be traced back to you. That afternoon, with James's help, I found a modest but beautiful apartment in an upscale building downtown. The real estate agent's eyes widened when I offered to pay a full year's lease in advance. By evening, I had the keys to my new home. My first purchases were practical. New clothes, toiletries, basic furniture, and a quality laptop. I avoided extravagance, still struggling to believe I could afford anything I wanted. The only indulgence was a top-of-the-line set of jewelry-making tools and premium materials, delivered discreetly to my new address. A week later, I hadn't told a soul about my windfall, except for Rebecca, Donald, and my financial team. I needed time to process, to decide how to handle my family, and to ensure my future was secure. Then came the inevitable encounter I'd been both dreading and secretly anticipating. I was at Carlton's Coffee, ordering my usual latte, when I heard a familiar voice. "Caitlin? Is that you?" I turned to see my brother Timothy, coffee cup in hand, looking surprised and a little uncomfortable. "Timothy," I said coolly. "I've been trying to reach you," he said, shifting awkwardly. "You changed your number." "I got a new phone plan," I replied truthfully. "What do you want?" "Mom and Dad are worried," he said, looking uncomfortable. "They thought you'd come back after cooling off for a day or two." I let out a short, bitter laugh. "They kicked me out into the rain with nowhere to go. What made them think I'd come crawling back?" He had the decency to look ashamed. "They may have overreacted. We all did." "We?" I raised an eyebrow. "I don't remember you standing up for me." He flushed. "Look, can we sit and talk? You look different." His eyes flicked over my new designer blouse and the expensive watch on my wrist. Things I'd justified as professional necessities. "I am different," I said simply. We sat at a corner table, Timothy burning with questions about my sudden prosperity. I offered no explanations, letting him squirm in the silence. "So, where are you staying?" he finally asked. "I have a place," I said vaguely, "and a plan, the jewelry business, among other things." Timothy leaned forward. "Listen, Kate, Mom's been a mess. Dad's pretending he's not worried, but he is. Maybe if you called them, apologized for the blow-up." "Apologized?" I set my cup down with a sharp clink. "I'm not the one who should be apologizing, Timothy. They were just trying to help you make good decisions." "No. They were trying to force me to live the life they wanted for me. There's a difference." Timothy sighed. "I just want our family back together." For a moment, I felt a pang of sympathy. He'd always been the peacemaker, desperate for harmony at any cost. But I wasn't willing to pay that cost anymore. "Our family isn't together because of choices they made," I said gently. "Not because of me. I'm doing fine on my own. Better than fine, actually." "Clearly," he said, gesturing to my new clothes and watch. "Did you get a new job or something?" "Or something," I replied with a small smile. Give Mom and Dad my regards. Tell them I'm not coming back. But I am moving forward. As I walked away, I felt lighter than I had in years. The tables had turned so dramatically it was almost comical. I wondered how long it would take for word to spread. Not long, as it turned out. That evening, my phone, my new number, which I'd only given to Timothy, buzzed with messages from both parents. Dad. Timothy says you're doing well. We should talk. Mom, please call us, sweetheart. We miss you. I didn't respond. Instead, I focused on setting up my new jewelry studio in the second bedroom of my apartment. With proper equipment and materials, I could finally create the pieces I'd always envisioned. 2 weeks after winning, I launched my rebranded jewelry business, Margaret's Legacy, named for my grandmother. I hired a professional photographer and web designer to build a stunning online presence. Within days, orders started rolling in, including one from a minor celebrity who'd discovered my work on Instagram. The same day my first major sale went through, I got a call from an unknown number. Caitlin, it's Dr. Sophia Martinez. Your mother gave me your number. Dr. Martinez had been my therapist briefly in college, until my parents, who were paying for the sessions, insisted on being informed about what we discussed. How did my mother get this number? I asked, annoyed at the invasion of privacy. From your brother, I believe. I'm not calling in any professional capacity. Your mother is genuinely concerned. There are rumors around town that you've come into some money. She's worried you might be involved in something problematic. I nearly choked on my tea. She thinks I'm dealing drugs or something? She didn't say that exactly. Doctor, Martinez said carefully. But she's confused about your sudden change in circumstances. I considered my options. Sophia had always been kind and respectful, even when I'd stopped therapy. I assure you my financial situation is completely legal and legitimate, but I appreciate the concern. Would you be open to a session? She asked. Just to talk through how you want to handle things with your family going forward. My treat. The offer was tempting. I did need someone objective to help me navigate all these tangled feelings. 1 session, I agreed. But I'll pay for myself. I can afford it now. Our meeting proved invaluable. Sophia helped me articulate what I wanted from my relationship with my parents. Respect for my choices, acknowledgement of their hurtful actions, and clear boundaries around my independence. You don't owe them an explanation about your money, she said gently. But if you want any kind of relationship going forward, some version of the truth will eventually be necessary. She was right, of course. The question was I ready to face them yet? The answer came sooner than I expected. 3 weeks. After being kicked out, I returned to my apartment building to find my parents waiting in the lobby. My mother rushed forward the moment she saw me. Caitlin, thank God. We've been so worried. My father stood awkwardly behind her, taking in my appearance, the expensive building, the doorman who'd nodded respectfully as I entered. How did you find me? I asked calmly. Timothy followed you home yesterday, Mom admitted. We were desperate to make sure you were okay. As you can see, I'm fine, I said, gesturing to the marble lobby. More than fine, actually. Dad finally spoke. Caitlin, what's going on? How can you afford to live here? I looked at them both. These people who had raised me, loved me in their way, and then thrown me out when I didn't fit their mold. Part of me wanted to tell them everything, to watch their faces as they realized what they'd done. Another part of me wanted to protect my privacy, my power. Would you like to come up? I said, making a decision. We have a lot to talk about. My parents stood speechless as they stepped into my apartment. They took in the high ceilings, the city views, the expensive furniture I'd finally allowed myself to buy after weeks of living like I was still broke. This place must cost a fortune, Dad said, his accountant's mind clearly ticking through the numbers. $3,000 a month, I confirmed. I paid a year in advance. Mom touched the sleeve of my cashmere sweater. These clothes... Caitlin, please tell us what's going on. Are you in some kind of trouble? I gestured for them to sit on the plush sofa while I took the armchair. Opposite. Power positions, just as Sophia and I had discussed. 3 weeks ago, you kicked me out of the house with nowhere to go, I said calmly.